Hi, it's Heath. It's time for another Media Dad Comics commentary, unscripted, unedited, just a guy, this guy, talking about comic books. Today's comic book is a fun comic book. I mean, they're all fun, but this is Bill and Ted Are Doomed, number 3, published by Dark Horse, a notable comic because of its creative team. Evan Dorkin writing and providing the cover, and wonderful comedic comics artist Roger Langridge doing the interior art. It's not Evan Dorkin art, which we'll talk about in a moment, but it is excellent art. And if you're not familiar with Roger Langridge, his comics, Fred the Clown, Zoot Sweet, all wonderful. So this is not the first Bill and Ted comic. This comic is kind of a prequel to the new movie, Bill and Ted Face the Music, which, if you haven't seen, I highly recommend during these trying times. So the stories are somewhat connected. Fits in between Bogus Journey and the current movie. Written by Dorkin, who wrote and drew a comic book for Marvel back in 1991, 1992 called Bill and Ted's Excellent Comic Book. That was a 12-issue series. He wrote and drew all but one issue, number 8. Totally different creative team. Number 8 did have inks by Marie Severin, which I think probably saved it. But the creative team, I'm not quite sure why it was swapped out for that issue. So Evan, if you're listening, feel free to let us know why you didn't do number 8. That series has been collected twice. It was collected by Slave Labor, longtime fan of Evan Dorkin's work, involved, I think, in his previous comics, Hectic Planet, Pirate Corps, maybe even Milk and Cheese. And then Dorkin, of course, worked in retail at Jim Hanley's Comic Universe back in the day. I used to go to Jim Hanley's shop in Manhattan. Don't think I was ever there when Evan was working, but was aware of that and always thought that was cool back in the Milk and Cheese and independent comics days. So a very fun comic with a bit of a comics history, not just a movie history. So the comic is a prequel to the movie and basically focuses on Bill and Ted trying to infiltrate with the Wild Stallions, Death, I believe, as their bassist, a heavy metal festival, particularly apparently death and black metal festival, and they don't fit in well, as you might imagine. They are too cheery, a little too dim, too friendly and kind, and the people at the festival don't seem to like them much at all. Even Death, oddly enough. So a friend of theirs commandeers a bus to save them from a fight at the festival. The death metalers cry havoc and let loose the snowmobiles of war, an image I believe that Rogers already tweeted. And it goes from there. It's very funny. It goes back to San Dimas. Bill and Ted's daughters, younger in the comic than they are in the new movie, are apparently hanging out with some aliens called Stations, perhaps because of their rocket ship being called Station. They've made robots representing Bill, Ted, their wives, and their children. So they're going to try to save things, and just really kind of a neat parallel. So in a couple of comics recently, there were some conversation images. There's that Judge Dredd and zombie immigration intake conversation series of panels, and then in another comic I read recently, there was a series of panels, maybe 9 to a page, of either a conversation or someone's face. And this, while not a conversation, is reminiscent of that, and is just interesting how reuse of art, or gentle reuse of art with funny writing, can maintain a gag for a full spread. And that scene in which Bill and Ted and Death are rolling down the hill in a snowball is quite a bit of fun, despite the repeated panels. And then they end up in the future empire of evil metal, population 666 and growing. So if you like metal, death, black, other extreme forms of metal, you might get a kick out of this. Brian Posehn, if you haven't read this comic book, please do so. And then at the end, they adopt makeup and garb to try to fit into the town of death metalers, and again aren't able to pull it off. They're too happy, too friendly, too kind, and they end up encountering some people who appear to lead the death metalers. So a fun comic. Fun if you like heavy metal, fun if you like Bill and Ted, fun if you like Evan Dorkin, fun if you like Roger Langridge. Just a fun comic, a single issue, a shorter review, but check it out. And definitely check out the Bill and Ted original series from 91, 92. Evan's work on that was awesome, was actually nominated for an Eisner, and has been reprinted twice. I think, as I said, Slave Labor and then Boom. The Slave Labor doesn't include the eighth issue. I think the Boom does, as well as letter columns. So be sure to check that out. Bill and Ted Are Doomed, number 3. Have a great day.